The next two tabs ensure that your reports and site look professional and speak to your brand. At Sift, we know how important it is to get your branding right. Your brand is the representation of your company or your practice. It's how people remember you and what you become or have become known for. Within the Logos tab, you can upload a logo for either a specific entity or for your organization or practice as a whole. To add a logo, you can either drag or drop them into this icon, or you can click Browse. So I'm going to go and add a logo for Jay's Cupcake Company just to show you how it would work. So I'm going to go and drag and drop my logo over here. And now it'll ask me if I'm happy with it and click Upload. And now I will have uploaded a logo for Jay's Cupcake Company, and that's what's going to appear in all of Jay's Cupcake Company's reports. You'll see we have two separate tabs. So remember, this is for your entity logo and this is for your organization logo. So if you are an accounting practice, you might want to make this your practice logo and then list your client's logo. If you are a business, you might want to make this your group's logo and then perhaps have each separate company's logo as the entity logo. So that's how the logos work. When it comes to themes, both the professional and the enterprise plus plans start with a bespoke branding for your practice organization. For enterprise plus, this includes a custom domain that's white labeled and removes anything associated with Sift. So at Sift, we realize that branding is really important. So we take the branding a bit further and we generate a custom theme for your organization. This will include images that align with your brand, as well as a dedicated front and back page for all of your reports. You can pick a color scheme and create custom branding. Using the available themes, we will then generate custom reports and custom financial statements for you. So that's how this theme works. If you're on an appropriate plan, you can click Request Themes and you'll be able to set this up with our design team. Just a note, if this doesn't happen on your computer screen, it might be because you're on a lower plan, and if you'd like to upgrade your plan to get this feature, you can chat to your account manager. So what can you see under the templates tab? Well, you'll be able to see a list of all the templates that you've created for any entity. You'll be able to see the pre-built sales templates and the other general pre-built templates. And then at the bottom, you'll have a list of all the templates that have been built for a specific entity. You can see who each template was created by, so these were pre-built. But if we go here, we can see that I created some of the others. And you'll have the option to style your reports by clicking over here, or to generate an interactive live view or download either of the reports to either PDF or Excel. If you hover over the name of the reports, it will show you what's included. And if you click on the three dots on the right-hand side of the name, you'll be able to edit this template. So if you click on that, it will take you to the view where you can go and edit it. Or you'll be able to schedule an email to send this template or delete the template. For templates that are specific to an entity, if you click on the three dots, you'll also have the option to share this report. And if you click on share, you can choose which users you would like to share it with and then click share. You can also tag these reports and then use grouping and filtering to organize them better, and we'll look at that in a minute. And if you toggle this on, it will only show you the templates that have been created by you. So it won't show you any pre-built templates or templates created by anyone else in your team. You can also search for a specific report over here. You can also group the information to help you organize it a bit better. So here you're able to group by entity. So we can see that these would be the any entities, and then would have a grouping per entity we've created reports for. We could also group by template type or have no grouping. And we can also group by tags, which we'll explore when we show you a bit more about tagging. There's also a filter tag option, but again, we'll explore that in the tagging video. The first template that we're going to build out together is a template for any entity, or a reusable template. So if we click on this, it'll take us to this report build, and we can now go and add information from any of the sections within Sift. So you might be familiar with some of these headings, and if you want to go and add information from, for example, Visualize, you just click on it, you select where in Visualize you want the information to be, and then you go and select the specific type of information. So we could go and include a dashboard and select next. It'll then ask us how we want this data to be viewed as, so monthly, quarterly, weekly, or daily. And we can always rename this report if we want it to be something different. Once you're happy with the information you've inputted, you can go click Add to Template, and you'll see that your report starts building out on the right-hand side. So we can go and add visualizations of our dashboard. We can include our health, break-even, or our KPIs. And because this is a reusable template, when we click on KPIs and click Next, you'll note that only the standard KPIs are included and there's no custom KPIs. And that's because custom KPIs are entity specific, and so we can't include that in a reusable template, but those can be included in a specific entity template, which we'll explore later on. If we go to profitability, here we can include information like our income versus expenses. Again, we'd have to select the time period, the number of periods we want to include, and also if we want income, expenses, or the net, and we can rename the report. So you might recognize these selections because they are the same options you have within this section of SIFT. Once you're happy, click Add to Template and it will add it over there. We can do the same with any information from customers, product, cash, or suppliers. And again, we can add whatever we would like, rename the report, and add to template. Within financials, we can go and add our profit and loss. And here we select the profit and loss, and we're able to add in a standard or a multi-period profit and loss. And we can select the comparison to be the prior or prior last year. You'll note we can't include budgets or build P&Ls because this is a reusable template. Those are items that are specific to an entity. You've built out a build P&L for a specific entity. And so if you want to include that in a report, you'll have to use the specific entity report to do that. So if I'm happy with including a standard or multi-period profit and loss and comparing to either the prior period or last year's values, then I can click Add to Template. The same applies with the balance sheet. If we go to the balance sheet, again, we'll be able to include a standard or a multi-period, and we'll have the same comparison options, and we can then click Add to Template. The same applies to the cash flow, and we could also go and add the KPIs table to our reusable report, and we could then click Add to Template. We can then go and add information from Analyze, and you'll be familiar with all of these different options. And then from Forecast, you'll note that we can only add cash manager information. We can't add a four-way forecast or a budget. And the four-way forecast and budget are specific to a particular entity, and so that's why they're not available in this reusable template. So we could click on Cash Manager, select Summary List, and choose if we want a daily summary or transaction list, and the period we want to include it for, and then click Add to Template. We can also go and add information from Audit. So here we could go and add our data health and click Next. And then under Upload, we could upload specific documents. So if we come here to All Documents and click Next, we can then go and select any document that we have on our computer, change its title, and then add to template. So you can include additional items that aren't on SIFT within a report. The last section which you haven't explored is Summary, and within Summary, you have several commentary options. You have the Legacy Executive Summary and our AI commentary with either pre-populated templates or the ability to start from scratch. We're going to explore these three options in a separate video, so to find out how to use these, make sure to watch that video. Once you've added all the different sections that you want to this template, you can name your report. So I'm going to say Reusable Template Example, and then we're going to click Finish. And now this will be added to the list of templates that you use. So we can go and search for it, Reusable, and you'll see here that templates for any entity, it's a reusable template example. We can now go and generate a live view or download this report. When you download it, you can select one or multiple entities that you want to create this report for. So I could download a report for Jay's Cupcake Company and for Arendelle, and then I can select the date that I want to download this for. I can rename it if I would like and select if I want it to be in PDF or Excel. I can also choose a style that I've previously created for this report, and we'll have a separate video showing you how to do that. And finally, I can select a language that I want to download this report. So currently I'm downloading it in English, but if you need this report to be in a different language, you can just select whichever language you like and then click download. I'm going to stick to English for my purposes, but then we're going to click download, and now SIFT will download this report. Here we can see the report for Jay's Cupcake Company with all the sections that we've added, and obviously we can work through this report to see the information that we've included. You can go and edit this report at any time later. That's how you can go and build out a reusable template for reporting within your entity. You can obviously add lots more information to this report depending on your requirements, but that's just an example of some of the information you can include and some of the options you have within a reusable template. Let's look at how to create a template for a specific entity. So remember, these templates enable you to compare to things like budgets and forecasts, and also to include more entity-specific things like build P&Ls or balance sheets and custom KPIs. So let's go look at some of our options. So we're going to click on a template for specific entities, and now we're going to select which entities we want to include in this report. So you can obviously select one entity, so just for example, Jay's Cupcake Company, but we could also go include several entities. So I could include the group company, the consolidated entity, as well as Jay's Cupcake Company, one of the underlying entities. We could also go include Zootopia if it's also included in the group. And so here you can either just report on one specific entity or report on several entities or a group as a whole to really help you get a good understanding of what's happening in your group or franchise. We're then going to click on Next. And now you'll be familiar with the sidebar. It looks similar to the one in SIFT, and you can go and add information from any of the areas of SIFT. Within Summary, we have some commentary. So here we have the Legacy Executive Summary along with our AI commentary, and we'll explore that in a separate video, but you could go and add either of these to your report. We could also go and include Visualize. So within Visualize, we could go and add our dashboard, for example. So we could click on Overview and Dashboard and then click Next. And now, as this is an entity-specific report template, we can go and choose which dashboard we want to include. So it won't necessarily be the default dashboard. So here I could select on the general accounting dashboard and then go and select the dashboards for each of these entities. Once I'm happy, I can click Add to Template. And if I only wanted to include Jay's dashboard, I can always go and delete the dashboards from the other two entities. We could go and add other information from the overview section, such as KPIs. And here we'll have the ability to include custom KPIs as well. So you'll see here we have some custom KPIs such as long-term debt or perhaps number of employees. So let's go and add the numbers of employees KPI. We could select line or bar graph, and we could do the same for Zootopia. So let's go add gross profit margin for them. And for Jay's consolidated entities, let's do the OPEX ratio and the gross profit margin. We could then click Add to Template, and now because we're in this entity-specific template, we're able to add those customized KPIs as well. We could also add specific accounts. So here we could go and select which account we want to include for each of our entities. So we could add the chocolate sales account for Jay's Cupcake Company, and for Zootopia, we could add gross profit. So we can add a graph with information from each of these specific entities. Again, once I'm happy, I can click Add to Template and the information will be added. Within transactions, we can also go and add a transaction list for each of those entities. Within profitability, we can go and add information from any of these sections, and the same applies to customers, products, and cash. Within cash, if we click on cash flow, we'd now be able to select a specific account that we wanted to include. So we could go and select only to include Pavi Bank or just include all the accounts within this entity. We can then click on Add to Template, and that applies to cash balance as well. So again, we can select the bank accounts we want the cash balances for. We can add information from suppliers as well. And if we go to payables, for example, it will give us the top 50 payables, and we can go and adjust that and click Add to Template. But that's similar to the previous template. Within the financial section, we can again go and add profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow, and KPIs. But now, because this is an entity-specific template, we can go and add those build profit and losses and apply specific layouts and other more customizable aspects. So we go to profit and loss and click profit and loss and click Next. You'll note that we can go and include the standard and multi-period, which was there in the reusable report, but we could also go and include a divisional report or a build P&L. So if we selected divisional, we'd then need to select which division we want to include. So if we click on this drop down, we can select head office and Atlantica, and then we'd only get a divisional profit and loss. For the divisional, multi-period, and standard, we can select if we want to use the default layouts, or if we toggle this off, we'll then need to select which layout we want to choose. So we could, for example, say Anne's P&L, and then that profit and loss layout will be applied. We could also select a build P&L. And once you've selected build P&L, we'll have to go and select which P&L we want to use. So we could go and select build P&L, and then that's the build P&L that would be pulled through. For Zootopia and Jay's consolidated entity, we have similar options. So here we could go and include a divisional or build P&L. That would only be applicable if this entity has build P&L. So you'll see Zootopia has no build P&Ls. So here we'd be limited to the standard or the multi-period view, or divisional if that entity had divisions. One other option is the comparison. So if for Jay's Cupcake Company we added a standard view, you'll see we have this comparison tab, but we're no longer limited to just prior period or last year's values. We could go and add a budget or a forecast as the comparison instead. So if we select budget, it'll ask us which budget we want to include, and we'll have to select the name of the budget we want to compare to and whether we want that budget to be a period or a total budget. If you're not sure what these mean, I encourage you to go take our budgeting course where we explain all of this. We can also select which division we want to include data from if we want to include only a divisional budget. The same applies to a forecast. So if I select forecast, I'll have to select which forecast I want to include. And then again, I can tailor that down to divisional information by selecting over here. So once you've decided whether you want a standard, multi-period, divisional, or a build P&L and what you want to compare it to, you can click Add to Template. Just a note, if you select a build P&L over here, you won't have to select a comparison because remember, you've already decided what comparisons and columns to include when building out your build P&L. If you're not sure what a build P&L is, I encourage you to go and take our financials course where we go and explore how to build out these customized build P&Ls. Okay, so I'm going to go back to standard and I'm going to compare it to budget. Let's make sure we've got the correct selections. Then for Zootopia, I'm going to include multi-period, and Jay's consolidated entity, I'm going to include divisional, and I'm just going to include those two divisions. Then let's click Add to Template, and we've now added our profit and loss. The options are very similar with balance sheet. So if I go to the balance sheet and click Next, I again will be able to select a divisional or a built balance sheet. If I select divisional, I can select which divisions I want to include, whether it's one or many, and then I could go and add this. If I select a build balance sheet, I need to select which build I would like to include, and that's the build balance sheet that will be included. And finally, if I select standard, I can go and compare it to either a budget, and I'd need to go select which budget to include, or a forecast. So here I'd go and select to include Mike's forecast, and then I could go and include data from the whole group or from specific divisions. Once you've made all of these selections, again, for all the entities, you can click Add to Template. And so what we've seen to date is that you can include very customized profit and loss and balance sheets for entities within the specific entity template. These profit and loss and balance sheets can include forecasts and budgets as comparisons, and can have your build profit and loss and balance sheets in order to ensure a very customized version. Within Analyze, you'll note that we have a few more sections. So sales includes customers and products, and those are similar. But here we also have the ledger section. If you have ledgers as part of your plan, then this will appear here, and you can go click Next. And now you'll need to go and select which ledger you want to include in this report. To do that, we're going to click on this drop down here, and we're going to include the Amazing ledger. We'll then be able to select if we want the standard, multi-period, division, or build ledger. Within standard, we'll be able to compare to prior, last year's values, or a budget or a forecast. So if we select budget, we'll have to go and select which budget we want. If we select forecast, the same will apply. Again, we'll have to select which forecast we want. If we select divisional, we need to go and select which divisions we want to include in this ledger. And finally, if we select a build ledger, we will then need to select which build ledger we want. So once you've made all those selections and you've told Swift exactly what ledger you want to include, you can click Add Template. You'll note that this is only available for entities that actually have ledgers. So Zootopia has no ledgers, and so there are no options, and we wouldn't be able to add that. You'll also see there's valuations. So here we can click on valuations, and now we can go and include a valuation either on the annual previous 12 months or financial year. Another difference to the reusable template is that now under forecast, we no longer just have cash manager, We also have 4-way forecast and a budget. This is because 4-way forecasts and budgets are entity specific, and so they're only available in these more entity specific templates. So if I go to forecast and click next, I'll be able to add a forecast for each of the entities, assuming they have a forecast. I could select the way I want to view this forecast. I'd need to go and select which forecast I wanted to include. I'd need to select if I want a detailed or a summarized forecast, and also which portions of the forecast I want to include. So I can either include all 7 of the options, so profit and loss, balance sheet, the cash flow statement on both methods, KPIs, drivers, and connections, or I could go and say remove the cash flow statement on the direct method and perhaps drivers and KPIs, and just include a few portions of the forecast. You can go and make the same selections for each of the entities that you have included. Again, this will only be available if this entity has a forecast. So for example, Zootopia has no forecast, and so I won't be able to include it. I can also choose if I want to include or exclude adjustments. So if I want to include adjustments, I can leave this toggled on, or I can toggle it off. And once I'm happy with all the selections I've made, I can just click Add to Template. The same applies to budget. So again, here I can come to budgets and click next, and I can then again go and select the details of which budget I want to include, whether I want detailed or summarized, and which portions of the budget I want to include in this report. And finally, if I want to include or exclude adjustments. Again, this will only be applicable for entities that have budgets, so Zootopia does not. And then once I'm happy with all the information, again, I can click Add to Templates. Within an entity-specific template, you have the same options to add information from audit, for example, the cleanup data help, and the ability to upload documents. Here you can upload any documents in much the same way we have in the Reusable template, and you can do it for each of the entities, or you can upload an action plan. So if we go to action plan here, we're able to add an action item, so increase sales. We can say who is responsible. We can select a due date and the level of importance. We can detail how far we are in this progress and go and detail action plans. So we must increase advertising, and then we can say add to action plan. And now this will be added to the action plan, and we can go and repeat that process for all of the entities and go and add as many action items as we need. And once we're happy, we can click Add to Templates. Once you've included everything that you want in this entity-specific template, you can name it. So entity-specific template example. You should obviously name it whatever's going to be relevant to your use for this template. So for example, monthly management report or annual financial report, whatever is applicable. We're then going to click Finish, and now Sift will create this template, and we'll be able to go find it in the list over here. So I called it entity-specific. Here it is. And I can then go and generate a live view or download this report in future, and then go and share it with the relevant users. And then go and share it with my team or my client.